buying a home can feel like navigating uncharted waters. Redfin agents can help. They'll answer your questions with honest advice so you know exactly what you're getting into. They'll also help you tour as many homes as you want and show you what it takes to make a winning offer. With a Redfin agent on your side, you can sail straight to your dream home. Local expertise from Redfin. That's real estate done right. Tour subject to property and agent availability. Virginia Office Falls Church, VA, 844-759-7732.
Do we need to add some lines of something on top of the microphone so you can have a reason to do that?
You gonna bring us in?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was just thinking, I was like, yeah, that's great. There's no way we can afford cocaine. So
Coffee it is in.
Coffee it is. All right. Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Polysaturated. I am one of your hosts, Zan, and I am here with...
Grow.
And Sparkle Tits.
Really?
AKA Scarlet.
Scarlet. Thanks.
Yes. You're welcome, Sparkle Tits. Look, Glitter Boobs just doesn't have that ring to it, but Sparkle Tits... Which, by the way, speaking of Sparkle Tits, we're going to be releasing your first coloring book soon.
Woo
Yay.
woo. It is not the one that has sparkle tits in it,
No,
though.
but you're working the one with Sparkle Tits.
But it
I
does. Okay, and the book is called?
Zen the F out.
That's Zen the EFF out.
Right. So
Because,
color
you
the
know.
F's out. Okay. So we have been completely swamped. Well, I'm surprised we're even here right now. We're going to end up having to take a break in the next 45 minutes to go pick up Mercury.
Or just call it done.
No, because it's only like a 20-minute episode. And
Well,
we don't
it's
ever
been
do
a while
that.
since we've done a short episode. So.
Yeah. Anyway, well, I guess we just might as well just get this shit started.
Right.
Let's get this party started, right?
So Zan had this incredible idea for an episode, and I thought it was pretty awesome, and then we forgot.
No.
And
no,
we
I
can't
forgot.
remember.
Right, because I didn't write it down.
You did tell us at one point, and it flew out of my head completely. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so
I don't even remember him
This
having an idea, so...
I
This
don't
is
remember
not
me
the
having an
greatest.
idea either.
This is not the greatest episode in the world.
It is
It's
a
just
tribute.
this is a tribute.
Tribute to the greatest episode in the world.
Yes. Because this
Oh my
episode
gosh.
doesn't sound anything like the
You're
episode
right.
that we were
Thanks
talking
for that,
about.
earworm.
Right, you're welcome.
We were walking along a long, dusty road.
Yep.
Me and my brother.
Oh my god.
Anyway, so we have this idea for an episode. Actually, Selkie came up with this one.
Yeah, she did.
And the episode is about guilt.
Mm.
And we were kind of tossing this around, and we were like, okay, societal guilt? Are we talking about religious guilt? Are we talking about... No, we're just talking
Yes.
about guilt in general,
Mhm.
because so Scarlett and I are recovering Catholics, and that guilt has been instilled in us, since, before we were born.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to rag on Catholics the whole time.
We love you, Catholics.
But at the same time, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not off the hook, because there's a lot of fucking guilt that came with growing up Catholic. So there's that. And then there's, Jay, who's raised Southern Baptist, and guilt was instilled with her. And then we have Crow, you were like the latest coming out of the guilt closet.
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah. What was your official religion? Just Christian? Or what branch?
Yeah, it was, I suppose, Northern Baptist. That's
weird.
It was Baptist. There was a lot of churches that I went to that were, quote-unquote, non-denominational, which, if you don't know, non-denominational in the United States is just a form of Baptist. It's fundamentalist Baptist.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and so it doesn't just come from religion, though. It really doesn't, because we have societal guilt that people will try to make us feel guilty for being poly in the first place, which is complete bullshit to me. And I'm sorry, because honestly, okay, I didn't think about societal guilt,
right,
or somebody imposing societal guilt until we started talking about this episode, because I never put two and two together.
The weird thing about it is society expects you to feel guilty about it.
Right, and that's what Jay had brought up. She had brought up the fact that, people are you should feel guilty for what you're doing. And I am completely unfamiliar with that because I don't talk to people that often. So, Jay, would you mind enlightening us on, like, I know you mentioned a conversation that you had with somebody.
It's just a general thing that comes along with conversations with most other people.
There's different ways that society tries to put guilt on you. And the three major ones that I see are the guilt because you're breaking with some form of civil religiosity. That's the first biggest one right there.
That's the first one. Most people are gonna-
Judeo-Christian heritage, and you're not doing what they consider is the correct thing.
If you're doing it, you're not doing it right.
Just completely glossing over the fact that their book is not the only book.
Whoa.
And their book is not my rule book, so why they think I should follow that? It'd be like asking them to follow the Book of Buddha,
right,
or the Quran, or any other, or a book that is not, a book that is not theirs,
right.
And it's a weird. The funniest thing about that is their book doesn't really condemn
polyamory,
polygamy in general. I mean, it does for certain offices. You can't be a deacon and be married to more than one person.
Really?
Yeah, the implication being that you don't have enough time.
Oh, well, okay, I get that. I mean, you really, if you're poly, you really don't have
you don't have a whole lot of time.
You don't have a whole lot of time.
I mean, they were kind of dead on with that.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I get that. It was totally, you don't have a whole lot of time.
Right. So there's that non-conformance to civil religiosity. So it's religious tradition that's so ingrained in society, it's absolutely expected, and non-conformance appears to be weird. So there's a certain amount of, well, you're hiding this, right? Of course, I've come out to people and had them assure me that, don't worry, I won't tell anyone.
Well, if I've come out to you, I don't care.
Their pictures are on my office cubicle. I'm not trying to hide anything.
Right. I'm waiting for my 90 days to start doing that. Not like it matters, but, it gives them a little more.
Yeah.
But
so I literally point to people on the wall. I'm like, yep, wife, husband, meta, dog. There's the kids over there. But, okay, so that's one, is the civil religiosity angle. The other is more of, all I can call it, working for either gender, you can call it slut shaming.
Oh, yeah.
It's I think Jay had to deal with this
probably more than anything.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where I wasn't a polycule where there were technically two women involved.
But that's okay. That's totally fine.
No, it wasn't even then. Still shamed for that.
Really? You were shamed?
Oh, sure.
Or?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, people would and they'd come up with their kind of... It's not like... That's the thing, is when you're talking to people, guilt and shame don't necessarily come out very, out in the open and in front. It just comes in the fact that you get overlooked for certain things. You get talked over more often. It's
like you
so
wouldn't
much
know
more,
how it is.
Yeah, it's so much more subtle. Or people come to you with shameful acts thinking that you will at least be accepting of this because look at how horrible you are.
Honestly, that's kind of one thing I get. It's like, but I find it fascinating, and what we always go back to this, is that some people don't feel guilty about cheating, but think that we should feel guilty for being poly. And the guilt comes in because we don't feel bad because we're all talking and aware? But the guilt of cheating on somebody is non-existent. That I've seen.
Like, do you think it's about like that for you, Jay? Like when you get that?
Oh yeah, always. No matter who you're with, if you're especially being a female, being with two men openly, that is when you're with another woman or you're with the same gender, it's kind of like, oh, okay, but aren't you, that's a sex fiend? You just can't get enough. Or well, we had Minnie's, one of her friends' moms say, one's enough for me. Yeah. And it's little comments like that. It's like,
yeah,
Yeah.
Well, no, and honestly, I was there for that conversation. I don't think she meant it
No,
that way.
she wasn't meaning it that way, but a lot of people do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And that's just how ingrained it is,
It
though,
is.
is people will say things without really thinking it through because that's the expected thing.
Or meaning harm about
Right.
it because they don't know what to say, so they're just pumping out stuff that, comes to them, and it's like most of it is geared towards a sex life that you should in some way feel shameful for.
All right.
And just today, just talking about the little ways that you're left out or you're put out or overlooked, or they don't invite you to the party, or they have some sort of stipulation, or those types of things. Those are also ways to make you feel kind of guilty or shameful about what you're doing. And speaking to a family member today, I was gently reminded that if I was going to be coming this weekend, that there would be other family member there that didn't approve of our lifestyle. And just to make sure that we would all be okay.
Oh, we'll be okay, but
With
if
that.
she says anything, I won't be okay.
Yeah, it's just,
I say
it's
that,
like
but
really,
I keep
Yeah.
the peace.
but that's a whole different thing. But it's little comments and things like that. They think you're going to be a problem. They think, and I get it. We do have some issues with them, but with those people that they were talking about, and maybe it was just a heads up, but things like that hit you wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've been dealing with a lifetime of it, it's easy, I think, for us to take so many things that were meant innocently as a gut shot.
Right.
So, we kind of have to be careful. And like when Minnie's friend's mom, in that case, she was just making conversation and being lighthearted.
Right.
But
after being scorched so many times
Yeah.
in the
You
same
kinda-
spot, you are oversensitive about it. And there's I don't mean to blame the people who are feeling hurt in a situation like that. I'm not saying oversensitive as in like, oh, you're being oversensitive, but I mean, if the wound hasn't healed,
Right.
and it's just constant, steady.
Yeah, reopening of the wound, pouring salt in it, and just like, meh,
Yeah, that's oversensitivity is the thing that's
Right.
happening right there. That's gonna hurt.
Well, you could just get over it, Just get over it. Just gotta do that because it's so easy.
we were told that we are all welcome.
Oh,
That
okay.
they would love to have us there. So
But on the same subject as the whole slut shaming and feeling guilt and stuff like that, I know you've experienced it firsthand. And when you have the one dick policy, or it's okay. But wait, or it's okay to be poly, as long as I'm okay with it. And then when I'm not okay with it, I'm going to make you feel guilty about it.
Then when you're not okay with the partner I choose,
Right.
it's a problem, and it's only your problem.
Right. But now you should feel guilty because you should know how this was going to end in the first place.
And I
It's-
should
it's
be
your fault
completely
now.
okay with it.
Right.
And I didn't set the boundary because...
Right. But, and that's coming from your, well, quote unquote, polycule, but in that case, that kind of goes into a toxic relationship style. But the guilt and the shame can come in from all different areas.
Even
including,
your children.
Yeah, and children, partners, family, society, religion. So this is something that we're bringing up on this episode.
And that's another one you hear is just people who they do this under the guise of being helpful, and that is
Oh.
you're gonna get a disease.
I already got one.
You
It's
hear
called-
this?
Never mind.
Yeah, you hear this from the medical community. Like
Take fuck it all for it.
I am literally not allowed to donate blood or plasma because I've been with a man
Right.
at some point in my life.
Right, even though you've been tested,
Right.
Several times since then, and it's been, I don't know, a long time.
Right. And
Sorry, Crow, still no.
but the thing about that is people who are swingers or people who are poly or anybody along that kind of spectrum kind of gets blamed. I've heard people out and out say that it's because of bisexuals that AIDS was a thing, that it would have just killed off. Here's literally what they were saying: would have killed off the gays and left the rest of us alone if it weren't for bisexuals.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it was... people don't have any qualms with, once they feel they have moral superiority to you, they have a tendency to drop all morals in regards to you.
Yeah, because you have none at this point. And it's a conversation I've had sort of with some former coworkers that I've had. And I say conversation, it was one of those things that they started a conversation at me.
Oh, yes.
Again, not knowing anything about me. They started a conversation at me and expected me to agree with them. And then when I, didn't feed into because they were trying to hook me into the conversation. I mean, I wouldn't because of what they were talking about. And they hook you into the conversation and expect you to agree with them. And because this is how it is. No, that's how it is in your world. But your world is apparently tiny and small, like your mind. And you can't see past any of that. So whenever you, let's just say like, it's because of this and because of that group. And because once you start putting the groups out saying that this because of this and because of that, like this whole area. No, it's not how any of this fucking works. Yeah. And it was very... my coworkers, my former coworkers, were very religious, but they had a very narrow view of the world when it came to their religion. Nothing else existed outside of that world.
Right.
And what they were told from the pulpit was the truth. And that's it. Or, I'm sorry, the pulpit and Fox News. Oh. And I'm not ragging on people who watch Fox News, but that is literally the only place they got their news from. So whenever you bring up because they would constantly come up with something, you saw what happened here. Yeah, but did you see the other side of the story? So you're going to be dealing with people like that in a religious aspect of it. That is their world. That is their only viewpoint on life in general. And so the guilt that comes in from them is just going to be, well, why? And what? Well, this and well, that. And does the book says this? No, you know what? Yeah. And to them, if you didn't have religion, you didn't have morals. Right.
That's where their mindset comes from, because they think that morality comes from their particular set of beliefs.
And I've been in the mindset of that. If you need that to be a good person,
you're terrifying.
You're probably not a good person.
Yeah.
So if that is the only thing keeping you from snapping or being an asshole, guess what?
Yeah.
Your personality trait, main one is an asshole. Sorry, not really. But most of the guilt, again, I choose people that I have in my life very selectively. And so I never really had a whole lot of societal experience being out. So mine comes from religion, of, just that guilt that was instilled from being Catholic, confessing all your sins, and this is a sin, and that is a sin, and this is a sin, and that is a sin, and that you are, by the time you do your first confession, you can literally spend hours in confession.
I'm sinning really hard right now.
You're wearing
just listening to you talk.
Oh yeah, that's true. But that's how I was raised. You sex before marriage, you should feel guilty. This, that, the other, you should feel guilty for all these other things. And it doesn't get any better as you get older and more involved in the church. It gets more instilled. But at the same time, it's like, how do you live in a society as today and not feel guilty from, for me, being raised as I was, everything I do in life right now, I probably should feel guilty for being raised as I was. And I can't live like that happily.
And so what do you recommend?
You can, I think it's over the counter. You do have to be over 21. It's called Fuck It All, and it comes in a bottle, either corked or screw cap.
Once again, listeners, we don't actually condone any form of alcoholism on our show.
But no, tonight I am totally drinking coffee. Jay has coffee and water, and really?
And Scarlett has a lollipop.
She has a blow pop.
So
anyway, but when it comes to societal guilt,
it comes in little forms of people stonewalling us with schools. Like the schools stonewalling us on getting other names on their forms, or even allowing Jay to leave the premises with Amethyst, and like almost cornering Amethyst and being like, "Are you sure you're safe?"
Yeah,
that was just so ridiculous. When the child is in their upper teenage years, sees a person and goes, "Mom," and then runs to them, like. Obviously, they feel safe.
Well, yeah. At the same time, if you see somebody, carrying off a kid that's screaming, it's like not my business. But if one yells "mom" and runs to them, then that's a problem. So,
and it's because there's different things that go in society that for some reason are considered normal and moral, and other things that are exactly the same thing or a corollary, and they're considered abnormal and immoral. Like I've had waitstaff tell me that when they see a guy show up at a restaurant, one day he has one woman with him, another day he has another woman, they go out of their way to see if there's something there to implode.
Yeah.
And by the opposite token, they say when it's a woman doing the same thing, they cover for her.
Right.
They literally actively cover for her. So I've had these conversations with people.
What kind of garbage is that?
They are rooting for the woman because
Right.
that's girl power.
Well, not only girl power, but it's the underdog.
That's
because
complete horseshit.
Yeah.
because the woman is, well, if she's doing this, then her man has to not be treating her right, and if the man's doing this, then it's
because he's an asshole.
he's an asshole.
And little did they know that in many cases it can very well be either perfectly innocent for one, or two, they could be doing what we do and going on date night with their other person in the polycule. And yeah.
And honestly, that happened not that long ago, a few weeks ago. Scarlett and I went out on a date, went and get some seafood, and then the next night, Jay and I went out and we're going to get some different kind of seafood. We were going to get it to go. However, the whole plan kind of went out the window. We ended up going in the restaurant instead. So, and it was the same waiter. And so you can tell, but he didn't say anything, didn't do anything. He did take a lot longer than he did the night before. But, next time we're just going to have to go all four of us. I'm just saying.
So, yeah, but that's the thing that I can't emphasize enough, though, is once somebody has achieved a certain amount of what they consider moral high ground, not what society considers, not what you consider, not what would even be logical, but what they have somehow in the gymnastics of their mind achieved a moral high ground over you, you now become somebody they can do anything to.
Right. Yeah, and it's kind of funny because
that is why
Switching to Geico is a good idea, especially when you consider everything.
First off, Geico makes it easy to switch. They have licensed agents available 24/7 online or over the phone.
But if it's so easy, you might start thinking everything is easy, even big wave surfing. And it's not. It's actually quite difficult.
Well, if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds on car insurance. And you could keep saving by bundling your motorcycle, boat, and RV, plus your home or renter's insurance.
But saving money might lead you to make some questionable purchases, like a 20-foot feather boa. And do you know how hard it is to clean a 20-foot feather boa?
Well, they do have an industry-leading mobile app you can use to pay your bill, file and manage a claim, or add a new driver.
But when life gets a little easier, it makes you too confident, and you start calling everyone Ace. And you're better than that.
Well, Geico has a 97% customer satisfaction rating and has been saving people money for 85 years. It's hard to beat that.
But you're right.
Switch to Geico. It's obviously a good idea. Switching to Geico is a good idea, especially when you consider everything.
First off, Geico makes it easy to switch. They have licensed agents available 24/7 online or over the phone.
But if it's so easy, you might start thinking everything is easy, even big wave surfing. And it's not. It's actually quite difficult.
Well, if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds on car insurance. And you could keep saving by bundling your motorcycle, boat, and RV, plus your home or renter's insurance.
But saving money might lead you to make some questionable purchases, like a 20-foot feather boa. And do you know how hard it is to clean a 20-foot feather boa?
Well, they do have an industry-leading mobile app you can use to pay your bill, file and manage a claim, or add a new driver.
But when life gets a little easier, it makes you too confident, and you start calling everyone Ace. And you're better than that.
Well, Geico has a 97% customer satisfaction rating and has been saving people money for 85 years. It's hard to beat that.
But you're right.
Switch to Geico. It's obviously a good idea.
Slut shaming is a thing because, at least I'm not immoral like her, and now I can degrade her completely. Now, you shouldn't do this to anyone under any circumstance. Why would you do that? If you consider yourself a moral person, why would you publicly humiliate or degrade anyone?
Right, because you have the higher ground.
But suddenly, because you think you have some kind of an edge over her, not you, but because this person thinks they have some kind of an edge over her, now she's fair game. She can just be degraded to any extent. And it's the same with anybody.
It's an ego boost.
Yeah. I'm better.
It feeds the ego, and most of what people project onto you is more of a reflection of who they are and what's going on inside of them than anything to do with you. So, you have to keep that in mind. Some people are just terrible human beings. But, that makes them feel better about themselves and how pathetic of a life must they live to have to resort to such extreme measures.
Yeah, I found it, fascinating. We just came from a festival where we were vending, camping out over the weekend, and we also do like some punk flea markets and stuff like that where we vend. And it's nice to be able to be out there and not really give a fuck.
Yeah.
And at the same time, people will come up like, hey, somebody else that's poly, or like they just like come out of the woodworks like, hey, holy shit, there's other people here that are also like us.
Yeah.
And it's, we actually had a conversation with one of the people that were next to us saying that she was in a polycule in some other state. I don't remember wherever she was before she moved here, but she was with her husband, and they had a girlfriend, but the husband and wife, like the woman we were talking to, she's like, yeah, me and my husband just did not make it. And she goes, I said, you know what? You and I are done. I'm done with her. I'm packing up and moving.
She didn't say it like that.
Well, I know,
she
but I'm
said,
paraphrasing.
You two are so good for each other. And you're so happy, and I'm just not.
Right.
And it just is what it is. And so the husband or the ex-husband now and the girlfriend are
married and
with kids, and she's married again, and she's happy.
Yeah, and doesn't she have a boyfriend now too?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought she said she had a boyfriend too. Anyway,
I don't think so.
But it's when you hear stories like that it's nice to be able to be out in society and be with like-minded people that don't give a fuck. Rather not, you're poly or you're this or you're that, because it is the counterculture, so to speak, that you're in, which, and it's funny because the people that we were talking to that were coming up to our table and, seeing our business cards with the polycule and restricted wares and all this other stuff, and we would start having conversations with them, and it's like, oh, you're a teacher and you're poly, or you're a, whatever, and you're this. Because in society, you're going to be whatever job you're doing right now, but you're also a person. Right. You also have a personality for the most part. Most people do, I guess. Some people that we've met don't have personalities, are not really existent. But the thing is that every person you meet is whatever they do for a living and this. And you got to realize that in society, not everybody is what they portray.
Well, they can't be.
Exactly,
Right.
and that's exactly where I was going with that.
And some can, and it's more openly acceptable and tolerated and encouraged. And then on the opposite end of that, if your beliefs in the way you live your life are opposite or contradictory to I'm just going to say, Christians can spout Jesus, they can pray, they can do all this in school. We've had the kids talk about it. They have opened things with prayers, even at the school board here when Zan was working for them. They did a whole thing, a whole conference.
Oh, not at a church.
At a
with
church.
Opening prayer and ending prayer.
And, if anybody would have done that, could you imagine if that would have been at a satanic temple?
Yeah.
Or a
that would have been more fun.
Wiccan ritual? Or any kind of and I don't know, just a barbecue with an atheist. Yeah. Or, you can't do that. You can't, and nobody else can do that. And it's, everybody else is made to feel guilty for it.
Well, you talk about that, but at the same time, they had a a holiday party for the employees of the office. Okay. And I went one year, and they had tracts at a table for, turning your life to Christ. They had prayer before. They had scripture reading while everybody was eating. They had this, that, the other. It was completely religious. Again, this is
county funded.
This is a county, state, school district.
Right.
Okay. So the following year, I decided I'm not going. Every person that left to go, why are you not going? Not my thing. Why are you not going? It's not my thing. Well, why? I'm not having that conversation.
Yeah.
And you can't, because there would be repercussions and, reprimanding and different things that could come down. You could have lost your job. And that sucks because you're kind of bully cornered into a spot where you have to feel shameful or guilty or whatever, and you have to be excluded because, you don't support this, or it's just, you just can't even sit through the bullshit. Right. The kids also have to deal with that on a larger scale, because all of them are, like, all of their peers are being guided by their parents, and they're coming into their own ways of thinking and their own morals and their own, compass, but they're using the foundation that their parents have given them and their loved ones and their guardians and stuff. And so we had a few instances where the kids had qualms about telling their friends or bringing them over, inviting them over, because they were worried that they would have a problem with our family dynamic, or even telling them because they didn't want to be even more
ostracized,
singled out, or pushed around and bullied, and like more of a black sheep, more of a big old sore thumb, outcast sticking out. So they kept it quiet. They kept it to themselves. And why? The ones that do come out, then I don't know, it's a whole big thing. It starts from when you're a kid, and it doesn't stop.
I know, talking about that, Selkie took a hard stance and pretty much said that any friend I have, if they can't accept my family, they're not my friend and don't need to be in my life. And I was like, fuck.
We taught her that from the beginning. We were like, look, you can, and it's not like we were like, no, you tell them this or else you can't have the friend. No, we actually sat down and had conversations with her about it. And we're like, how do you feel about this? How would you prefer that we handle this situation? Because this is a thing that can potentially come up. And she was like, if they don't want anything, if they don't like it, they can just deal with it. So we were like, okay, that's how we'll proceed, because it got complicated when there were more than just the two of us parents going to school activities or, different things like that. And we're like, okay, well, you're going to have questions and your teachers are going to have questions. And, so she was like, okay,
And how many times do we hear that phrase? Well, what you do behind closed doors?
Oh God.
Yeah.
And this was usually in reference to something fairly innocuous, like we're holding hands.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. Or
not hands.
we're sitting in a chair, not even in the front row, just in chairs in the audience somewhere.
So you're talking about holding Jay's hand, or are you talking about holding hands that were no longer attached to somebody else? Because there's two different things, and I could see one.
It is that, we're Jay's hands.
Oh, okay.
Well, there was that time family completely made us feel like shit when we were welcomed there for a holiday, and we went in being ourselves. We were even well behaved, like it's our parents and grandparents and stuff. We're not gonna be like making out on the couch or anything,
especially with adults.
But we are very affectionate. And so we'll be holding hands, or we'll rub each other's shoulders or whatever. And apparently that was just too much.
Oh.
And we were notified that, we could come back, but how was it worded?
Something about all the affection or whatever.
They didn't need to see all that or something.
They were the couples that were there represented were doing those things.
Or more,
like we weren't doing anything that anybody else wasn't doing.
Yeah. Anyway, and so we thought it was a wonderful time, and everyone had a wonderful time. And so then we were made to feel like shit because I think we actually cried about it. Yeah. Well, I did for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Because it hurt, because finally we had some people that were accepting and whatever, loving that we thought. And we got home and we're all giddy with happiness and love, and our hearts were full. And then we got the phone call. It was with the shame and guilt. Mm-hmm. You just don't, we want you there. We just don't want it rubbed in our faces, I think is what it was said.
That's exactly how it was worded.
Yeah. And I was like, what? Rubbed what in your faces?
And then we were trying to figure out what exactly we did, and we're just like, no, wasn't that, no.
These are phrases that I've heard my parents use about gay people.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah,
because them existing is rubbing into
Well, at the time, that's when I was with X. X was still in the picture, and since then, they've grown tremendously, and it is no longer an issue, and, but it's those initial things and that old programming that they just... anything that they aren't comfortable with or didn't grow up with or weren't exposed to is now wrong, and they just can't.
I always feel a little double-edged about things like the festivals that we go to where you can finally be amongst your people.
Hi, people.
And people who are like-minded, and I like it and dislike it. Because here's the thing, you get into your subculture and it builds and it grows in its own thing, and before you know it, it's created this division in your life, even in society, where you can go over here and be this way.
Right.
And then when you cross the line and go back to regular society or mainstream society, now you have to cross over and be their way.
Right.
And when I look at it, I'm like, no. Okay, it's great that we have this place to go to where we're all going to have fun like this, and we're all going to be around people who are comfortable with who we are and what we are. But it's these people over here that, I'm sorry, need to move. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're not doing anything wrong. They are.
Right.
Well, I think it's being able to go to those kind of places that fortify the strength to keep on doing that. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise you just get beaten down, and you just... the masks come up, the shields come up. You're just tired from everyday life and the things, and the same old over and over again, and the closed-minded BS from everybody around you. And when you go to those places where you can be that way, it reminds you, okay, this is me. I am this person. I can be this person. I'm going to be this person when you go back.
Yeah. And we've talked about it before. The other ways they guilt and shame you is by when something bad happens.
Oh, yeah.
They gloat.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of reaching out to you. Yeah. It's all going to end in tears. How did your last 3 marriages end?
Yeah, was it?
It's all going to end in tears. You wore a white wedding dress to your 8th wedding.
We had hula hoops. We had a limbo bar. We were having a blast on the way out the door. Wait, that's not how that works.
I told you this was a bad idea.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to do that. That's not.
So was dating a married man that behind his wife's back.
Right. And even there's even
Or
still
woman.
Our woman.
And this country needs a lot of qualified, actually educated mental health care professionals to be available. But there are still mental health professionals who, although they'll say they are poly-friendly or
BDSM friendly
or any of those things, the minute something is going wrong in your life with one of those subjects, that seems to be their only thing to recommend. Well, you need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Are you feeling like you're becoming mature enough to stop with this with
Childish
that kind
behavior?
of relationships?
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're questioning the relationship.
Yeah, and they are, and they're obvious about it, and it should sound obvious to them when they say that out loud using words, but for some reason societal thinking being the way it is, it just flies over their own head. And their head is up their ass, so that's difficult.
Right. It's got a difficult trajectory right there.
It creates an infinite time paradox loop,
right?
Because all of the forces going around.
Well,
good.
To be fair, my therapist has not said that phrase the last 2 sessions. So.
Good.
The last 2, but what about the ones before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, they're trained and they're educated, but they're also set in the same programs that they grew up with. And so sometimes no amount of training and education and exposure, plus a lot of them can choose their clients.
Yeah.
And so if they're being selective and they're only gearing towards this, they can say they're open to this. But just like somebody can say they're okay with, opening their monogamous relationship into polyamory, but then once they actually start doing it, they just realize they can't do it. So I think that expands into a lot of different avenues too, and mental health professionals included. So they know the words, and they would like to think that they could be supportive and learn from it and go through the process. And maybe that's what's happening too with your therapist.
She's been very the last 2 sessions she's been way less harsh on that aspect. I think she's doing research, honestly.
Good.
That's good.
A lot of our therapists have to.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If they're at least willing to go that route, that to me that's like completely redeemable. This is
Right.
This is a thing like, wow, you're at least trying.
Yeah.
You're not.
It's like, I get it. I mean, I'm not, or whoever's therapist, we're not putting them in an easy situation if they're not familiar with the process. So, but learning from it and expanding on their study is good, you know?
Yeah.
And I have actually had people mention, just talking to us, and this goes back to the slut shaming thing. It was, well, so how does that work? And that's such a loaded question when I hear it, and I'm geared to be like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Every time. How does that work? And a lot of people mean it perfectly innocently, but I've had times where people meant it as in, which one of me and Zan goes first?
Well, typically it's me, but kidding.
And that it's one of those things of like, are you serious right now?
Right.
It's one of those things. It's like, I don't ask you what your sexual positions are, so
I mean, unless you want
don't
any
ask
advice.
me about my sex life, baby.
And like I said, we're not
How long has it been since your wife went?
Never.
I get cynical. I'm like, how does what work?
Yeah, and
I make them get very uncomfortable, and
Well,
then they change the subject.
and I've seen you do this before, and you keep asking them, well, what do you mean by that? Or how does what work? And you have them, once you have them explaining it into detail as to what they're trying to ask you, even though you're perfectly aware of what they're trying to say, they realize how fucked up or stupid their question was in the first place.
Yep.
Well, trans people still, even in today's day and age, they still get asked if somebody can see a picture of them before their transition, or just
worse.
Yeah, and it gets worse. They ask specific questions about their genitalia and different things.
Can
like
I
that.
see the part? Yeah.
It's
like
no.
No.
I mean, we had a conversation with the event coordinator this weekend, and talking about their son who's trans and all the shit that they get from it.
Right.
And it was just like, oh my, and we saw him at our table and we didn't think anything of it because again, this is the kind of festival that you have this, that you don't like, who gives a fuck?
Right.
You know, you are you. That's what I'm seeing and what I'm doing and what I'm talking to and whatever persona you're in front of me with is what I'm going to accept you as.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it worked. And I was like, oh, that's your son? Oh, cool. Yeah.
I had a situation years ago, and this is so peripherally related, just bear with me. Years ago, I was in a Walmart, and I was in the dental care area, and there was another person there who saw me looking at toothbrushes. And started asking me questions about like my teeth and dental habits, and I was being pretty vague and just like, yeah. And I thought, okay, there must be like a dental hygienist or perhaps a dentist or whatever. They must work in the field, and that's why this is.
Yeah, is that the 5th out of the 4 dentist? 5 out of 4?
And then so I asked, I'm like, yeah, so do you work in dentistry? And she's like, no, I just care about dental health. And I'm looking at her.
Yeah, that's weird.
Why are these questions? You asked this of a total stranger in a aisle at Walmart, and then she looked at me and she said, "Open your mouth for a minute."
Nope.
No.
She literally said, "Open your mouth for a minute," and I just recoiled. So I cannot even. I remember how uncomfortable I was. I remember how I just wanted to be anywhere else right then. And this is such a simple thing. This is just a mouth that, my jaw is flapping all day long. And it's out and visible, well, when we're not in a pandemic. But so I can only imagine how devastatingly uncomfortable this must be for trans people who are like faced with questions like this. And people are like, oh, show me.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
People who have cancer or like surgeries and stuff like that too have mastectomies and, they, could I see your scars?
Yeah,
like,
bitch, no.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's insensitive.
So I guess one thing you can learn or be thankful for is that she didn't say close your eyes and open your mouth.
Yeah, good Lord.
Yeah, that would have been a little off.
I guess I did want to share one last thing. It was about the festival we were just at. And that was, there was the tent to the, like, as we were facing out, the ones to the left of us. There was a woman there and 2 guys were running that tent. And the woman pointed out her husband and called the other 2 guys that were running the tent her husbands. Sorry. So,
I thought they were a cute couple.
They all were. But as so I just thought, okay, they're a polycule, and I just talked about ours and that sort of thing, and they're like, oh, you're poly. They didn't say you're poly too, but for some reason I was still going in that line, and eventually conversation gets broken up when you're vending and that sort of thing, but eventually it came back around to me asking them, so how long have you been a polycule? And they had no idea what I was talking about. Oh, okay. And then, so I was like, oh, I thought you were all married to her. And they're like, oh, and it turns out that's just what they say.
Oh, okay.
So they just call it that even though they're not.
Oh, that's interesting.
And here's how awesome these people were. One of them took me aside and said, is this okay? Is it offensive that we're calling ourselves poly when we're not? Because you're a real polycule, and they wanted to make sure that it wasn't offending us, that
The only thing I got offended by them was he kept calling me sir.
it's the gray. Fuck. I'm sorry. I honestly thought you knew. I mean, I don't know. No, it was, and I told him that no, not only is it not offensive, I'm so happy that the words are being normalized.
Mm-hmm.
That even if people aren't poly, if they keep using it around people who are, who hear it all the time, they'll at least have something to tie it to mentally. They'll have words for it. They'll have verbiage.
Right. And it's not going to shock anybody.
Right.
Saying whatever it is.
All the shock is gone.
Right.
All of the things that, they've already passed that stage of novelty and introduction, and they already have definitions.
Right. I mean, you'll hear it at work. That's my work wife or my work husband.
Absolutely.
Or my work whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taken as a joke, but honestly, a lot of times there's always.
Well, you gotta figure there's a kind of weird dance for acceptance into society, and you see it in sitcoms all the time and things like that, where they start introducing diverse characters, and at first, they're weirdly stereotypical, and then the next generation of shows will introduce a character like that, and they're special or magic in some way. They can do things that the others can't. They're almost put on too high an acceptance level.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where they start off like with a baseline, and then they go way on the other side, and then they have to bring it back down,
and then it starts to stabilize. So I think that eventually in media they're going to show they've already showed polygamous and polyfamilies, and they're weirdly stereotypical, and they're generally degraded and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I haven't got to that part of Schitt's Creek yet.
But the next generation of media is probably going to show polycules as like super families.
Well, and honestly,
and then they'll start to stabilize and they'll become real.
That's actually true, because on I think it was Showtime had a series called Poly Married and Dating.
Yeah.
And it showed your typical like this beefed up, workout dude with these two really like skinny hot women. One was an instructor for strip aerobics class. Come on, can you really? And it showed the sex, and it showed the this, and it showed the that, because that was their big catch. It was that they showed sex and whatever, and then they had another polycule that, well, actually, it was kind of like a star, because it was a bunch of people with a bunch of people.
Oh.
But again, showed the sex. And then there was this other one, they didn't show that often, but it was a polycule.
Oh, the one with kids?
No, not the one with kids. The one it was a younger group that actually had a commitment ceremony.
Oh, yeah.
And then they had sex. But it was a thing that it's like they didn't have the drama in that one. Like, one of them, they came back, like the wife came back, and there was condoms left everywhere.
Oh.
Because he had just had sex with his girlfriend everywhere in the house. And she was upset because there was used condoms, which I totally get.
Well, they also had an agreement that the sheets were to be changed and all that. So, I mean, I understand.
Well, no, I'm not saying it's not, though. But again, this is like, coming in that it's all about sex.
Right.
If you're poly, where do you find the time? But it's, again, they had to show the sex. They had to show this. They had to show all the, gory details, for lack of a better term, of what poly is. And again, I get that that's taking it way out to left field, and we're going to, bring something back in to normalize. But apparently there is some polycule in Schitt's Creek. I haven't got there yet, but supposedly, I don't know. I was just told that there was one, so I don't know. Yeah, you're right. And normalizing it to where you don't get shamed. And in our short intermission between this, I realized I had a conversation with a coworker today, and I mentioned my girlfriend. That's a little disturbing for me, Because of the fact that I was
comfortable enough.
right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that feels weird. It really does. But it was actually a kind of a weird synchronicity conversation that we got into, because my coworker came to me. She says, "Hey, I just got a new phone. Can you activate my mobile pass for the doors, because it's all smart doors, and so you just literally pull up the app, put it in, you're through the door." And I was like, "Oh," and she was, "Yeah, I just got a new Google Pixel 4 and whatnot." And she's like, "Yeah," she goes, "My last phone was an iPhone, and I didn't like it," and which I'll leave the iPhone users alone at this point. I'm trying my best. But she got a Google Pixel phone, and same phone that you have. Mm-hmm. Well, we just had a slight incident with your phone last night. But she was talking about like charging her phone and everything, and I was like, she was like, "Yeah, I'm weird. I don't charge my phone at night because I've heard so many issues with people like catching pillows on fire, charging their phones." I was like, "That's weird." I was like, "We always charge our phones at night." I was like, "But strange coincidence. My girlfriend's phone like melted the cord last night." Mm-hmm. And I don't know, like, and so I said that, and then I'm like, "Oh, fuck." But didn't really react. So I don't know. And again, I'm still new at my job, so I don't know if they know my whole. I mean, I wear a wedding ring, but I don't know if she even caught it to
I doubt it. You're making a bigger deal out of it than.
Yeah, in my head, yes, I am going over and over and over again.
It's a weird thing with wedding rings. I found I'm one of the very few people that actually look at people's hands.
I do too.
I don't know why that's rare. I always look at hands. I always check for rings. Mm-hmm. I always check, and not just wedding rings. I mean, it's not like I'm looking like, "Oh, that person's single," but like it tells you about them. Mm-hmm. And it tells you about nothing. I mean, if nothing else, they're just taste in jewelry.
Jay wore a wedding ring. Didn't stop you, did it?
You're right.
Didn't stop me either. So, RJ.
We were at a poly meetup in Beltane.
But to be fair.
By the way, happy belated Beltane,
happy
everyone.
Belated Beltane. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
I was wearing one of my original wedding rings. That sounds terrible, but it was a lost, stolen, damaged sort of situation. I was wearing a wedding ring, and I took a part-time job, and I was surrounded by kids, mostly. It was either people who just needed a little extra money like I did, or it was kids that were trying to get their first job under their belt and that sort of thing. And I thought it would be obvious that I was so much older than everybody else, and I thought it would be obvious that, no, they literally thought that it was a purity ring.
Oh, God. I mean, I guess it would be him, but, you were married to God.
They
That's
thought,
not what that means.
they thought that I was staying a virgin, and that was...
How's that working out for you?
Not as successwhat at that as you'd think.
You had kids by that time, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had 3.
Yeah.
I had 3 at the time, and...
So what is it? They keep using those words.
Yeah. It was, and there was a couple of flirty people, because children, which really queefed me out. Yeah.
It goes back to looking at the hands. Yeah. More people look at the hands than you think, because they look and are you available? And not that it actually stops them.
No, some people just see that as a challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like one of our friends, Ant, he was actually trying to pick up this new employee at one of the bookstores we had gone to, and our friend was a manager, and he comes out with, "Hey, can I get your number?" She's like, "No, I got a boyfriend." And he's like, "I got a goldfish." She's like, "What does that have to do with it?" She goes, "Oh, I thought we were talking about shit that didn't matter." And you know what? It worked. If I wasn't there for it, I would not have believed it, but I literally was standing right there. I was like, holy shit, that worked.
Humanity is doomed.
And also you have to know Ant.
You have to know him.
Yeah.
He kind of has that charm that, yeah.
He does.
Jay, is
yeah.
there anything else you'd like to tell us?
Nope.
Okay.
She's got that look.
Is that a discussion for later? Because I want to hear about this.
Anyway.
So, I guess on that note,
Yeah.
Here's the deal. Society has its own viewpoints, and whoever you have in your life that feels that they have a moral superiority to anybody else around them for
Sorry.
Deep thoughts with Sam.
anybody that has a moral or feels they have a moral superiority, whether it's due to religion, whether it's due to their placement in society, or just they want to be an asshole about it, they're gonna come at you.
Deep thoughts.
They're getting more and more shallow as you interrupt me, because I'm losing my...
So then I dropped some garlic and croutons on there, and the rest is salad history. I made the best salad ever, people, and now I'm making the best app. The Caesar Sportsbook app got live in-game betting, parlays, and Caesar rewards. Caesar salad ain't got nothing on my app. Nothing!
Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call, text, or chat 1-888-532-3500. Download the Caesar Sportsbook app. Your app is ready, Emperor.
New hot and iced Sunrise Batch Coffee from Dunkin'. A bright and balanced, full-bodied blend brewed so you can get summering from sunrise to sunset. And even after that. Because that's when you can show off those string lights you hung in the backyard. Or rehung. Enjoy a medium, hotter iced Sunrise Batch Coffee for $2. America runs on Dunkin'. Price and participation may vary. Limited time offer. Exclusions apply.
Train of thought. But what it is that you're going to have it to where you're going to come across these challenges on a regular, especially if you're poly, especially if you're doing anything quote-unquote countercultural.
If you're anything other than what somebody expects you to be.
Right.
If you're anything other than what someone else expects you to be.
And it doesn't matter who that person is or what part of society that person is. They will look at anything different and attack it or make you attempt to feel bad or shame you because you have another partner.
Nice ego. Sorry about your IQ.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing we see a guy with a big truck. Sorry about your penis. You know?
It was a woman today that almost hit us and cut us off. And yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is that you're going to come across these people on a regular.
Astrofest.
But it's, and actually, you know what, I boosted
The Ford Fiestrogen.
Yes! I love it.
Ford Fiestrogen.
Yes. Anyway.
Wow. What was the other one I called it?
The Ford Compensator.
Yeah, the Ford Compensator. I don't know why they're always Ford, but it just, sorry, Ford.
It's a quick word to say right before the rest of it.
We saw one car the other day with the muffler sticking out of the back fucking window.
Is that what that was?
Wait, the back window?
Yes.
Not the back of the pickup.
It was like
out
of the bottom of the back of the like the what do you call that? The bed. And up through out. It was either out of the window or just up against the window, but either way, the little overhang at the top of the truck that was like 18 feet tall was like all black with soot that from the pipe that was sticking out.
Was it one of these stupid ass people that jack up the front end like 18 inches and drop the back?
And we were behind them, so I don't know. Yeah,
it didn't look like it.
I guess what it comes down to is don't let them make you feel bad for who you are. Don't let them, stop you from living the true you. Even if you have to hide, even if you can't say shit about whatever going on in your life. Don't let that stop you from loving who you want to love.
The only way you can get society in general to get off their perceived, they're not real, but perceived moral high ground, and thus dismissing any morality on your part, is to take the thing that's shocking them, the new thing, and make it not new anymore.
Right.
We've seen this over and over again with different things. We'll see it with more things in the future. But I guess I want to say to our listeners, go to your festivals, go to your, go amongst your folks and do those things and get and feel that validation and fortification. But go out of it armed with that, because somebody has got to break the ground.
Right.
And we're not trying to guilt you or shame you if you can't.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
That's not what this is about. It's just about all of the things that we encounter and ways that you can counteract it or live with it or, just be who you can be in the best possible ways that are healthy for you.
Be true to yourself.
Be yourself.
Be yourself.
In the ways that are safe and comfortable and possible for you.
Right.
Yeah, possible and safe, I agree with. Comfortable, I don't know if I agree with, because comfortability allows you this laziness where you get to sink in, and that's when you have to start lying and putting on the masks and denying parts of yourself. But, yeah.
I think by comfortable, I mean more emotionally safe.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. In other words, don't let those douchebags rule your life. So
thing is, like I said, I raised Selkie on this belief. We had what we call a come to Jesus meeting, and it was one of the most severe meetings that we have had, maybe one of the top 3 in her whole 18 years,
almost 19
of being here. She'll be turning 19 at the end of the month. Anyway.
and Mercury's graduating this year.
Yep, and at the end of the month. And Zan is turning also at the end of the month. So
I love you.
Anyway, I love you so much. I didn't even say your age. See? Though it's those times that you're getting old when people don't want to say your age. I'm joking. I don't like the O word. Okay. So anyway, we had to have a lot of come to Jesus meetings with her. But especially when it came to societal expectations and societal protocol and ways that you have to operate in society, to be amongst society, to healthily exist amongst society. And it helps being an empath. And it also hinders. What is that saying? It's like the blessing and curse of an empath is being able to understand why somebody is such an asshole, but realizing that somebody is such an asshole. Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
she can tell right away
that
the person's an asshole and understands them.
And you understand it. So it's like a curse all in one, because you're like, it's not their fault, but they're an asshole. And I had to tell her that. Do you realize that people who are projecting all of this stuff onto you, how much they must be suffering at home, how much they must be going through? And this was while she was in high school, and I think she was in 9th or 10th grade. Anyway, but she was like, I don't like people. They're all assholes and whatever. I was like, do you realize sometimes you're the asshole?
And that hit a light switch in her head.
I'm like, we're all assholes sometimes. I'm not perfect Jay all the time. Most, hardly any of the time. I wing this shit. So, but, do you realize sometimes you're the asshole? How many people do you think the same exact thing that you're thinking about all of these people that you're claiming are all idiots and assholes, and and that really got her thinking, and it opened her mind. And I said, why do you think these people are being that way? What would cause them to react these ways and do these things and say these things? Because they've been conditioned and told and denied parts of themselves. And so now, to make themselves feel better, to feel validated, to feel